Papa! Papa! Wake up, Papa! We made it! We made it! How is this possible? How did I get here? As Hackleswell looks around in astonishment that he has arrived at the waterfall to the west, he can't believe what he is seeing. As he walks closer to the waterfall, he can feel the fine, cool mist of the waterfall, something that he really wished he could experience with his daughter. Papa! Papa, you're here! Hackleswell looks over to his side and sees what appears to be his daughter nearby. He looks back at the waterfall and then back to his daughter. Come to me, Papa. I missed you. He is uncertain and frankly overwhelmed at his current predicament. He wants to inspect if what he is experiencing is real or not. There you are, Papa. Play with me. How did I get here? You're home, Papa. Hackleswell is unsure what is going on at this very moment. Everything seems so real, from the smell of fresh stew cooking on the fire to hearing his daughter's voice and laughter. All these senses bringing him immense joy, something he has not felt for years. Papa, come play with me in my room. After hearing his daughter call out to him, he turns towards his daughter's room and begins walking towards it. He can see his daughter playing with her dolls. As he gets closer, she walks out of sight in her room. He walks into her room and notices that she is facing the corner of the room. She was crying. Why are you crying? Why did Mommy have to go, Papa? I'm so sorry, little one, but I'm here for you. I'll always be here for... What was that? What was what, Papa? Do you want to play with me? There it is again. I hear an infant crying. He heads to the door to see if a baby is in his home. But right before he can walk out of his daughter's room, he is stopped by his daughter quickly appearing in front of him and blocking him from leaving her room. He looks down at his daughter and wonders why she won't let him leave to see who is crying. He notices that she is not wearing a sunflower bow on top of her head, but he can't remember for sure if she wore something like that or if he is just confused since it has been so long since he had seen her. He doesn't exactly remember, but he still has a gut feeling that he knows she always wore a sunflower bow on top of her head. He definitely not only hears a baby crying, but also notices something different about his daughter's appearance. As his daughter is standing right in front of him, he looks down on the top of her head. Where is the sunflower bow that I made for you? You always wore it, sweetheart. I'm sorry for making you angry at me, Papa. You didn't make me angry, love. Papa just is having trouble remembering. He notices that he is no longer in his home. He is now in a dark cavern near an underground lake. His daughter is standing near the edge of the lake. Come over here, Papa, and then you will see me. I don't understand, sweetheart. I can see you right now. No, Papa. Your eyes are still closed. Hackleswell doesn't understand, but still walks toward his daughter near the edge of the lake. His daughter points at something in the lake near them. He leans down to get a closer look at what she is pointing at. He sees a large shimmering mirror surrounded by a crystal frame. Through the ripples of the water surface, he can see himself and his daughter when he was sitting to meet an old friend in the local tavern before beginning his journey to the waterfall. He then sees her sleeping next to him in the spare room in the farmhouse. He sees her following behind him in the castle ruin, and he sees her standing next to him, holding his hand, while he is confronted by the witch. You see, Papa? I was always with you. In the mirror, Hackleswell notices that his daughter is wearing her sunflower bow on top of her head. He looks at his daughter standing next to him and sees that she isn't wearing it. Where's your sunflower bow, sweetheart? He is startled and confused as he looks around for a baby crying and someone laughing. At that moment, his daughter appears in front of his face. Save her. Save who, sweetheart? The baby, Papa. Save the baby. Hackleswell, lying on a cold, damp stone floor, slowly opens his eyes. he sees that he is still in the witch's lair. He can hear the baby crying in the distance, and he can hear the witch. While on the floor, he slowly reaches into one of his pockets to see if he still has the coin that is enchanted with the genie. He knows that he no longer has any wishes left, but he is worried the witch has taken the coin to use for her own benefit. While still lying on the floor, Hackleswell sees what appears to be a translucent spirit, like a mirage. Focusing, he sees that it is his daughter. She walks to him, kneels, and holds his hand. He can feel her touch. It is calming him, hence pacifying him. While still holding his hand, she slowly helps him up off the floor. Once he is fully standing, he looks into her eyes in amazement. "Is that really you?" She touches the middle of his chest and the middle of hers as well. She then looks down towards the corridor where the witch and the baby are in a room. He looks to where she is looking and sees a blue light illuminating out of the room. She then looks back at him and slowly disappears. Hackleswell thought for a moment. He remembers that the witch said that it takes very powerful magic to enchant an object with the voice of the dead. He then realized at that moment that Olgrid's wife must have enchanted the spirit of his daughter in the wooden sunflower. Her magic has always been very powerful. He walks slowly down the corridor toward the room with the witch and the baby can be heard. The blue light from the wooden sunflower can also be seen. As he gets closer to the doorway of the room, he moves much slower and more carefully to ensure that he will not be noticed by the witch. When he carefully enters the room, he sees the wooden sunflower glowing a bright blue hue hanging on the wall near him from its necklace. He can also see the baby crying in a crib that was crudely constructed. The witch is preparing something on the table near the crib, facing away from him. He carefully reaches and grabs his wooden sunflower necklace off the wall and places it around his neck. He has been to this lair in the past and knows where he needs to go to get out of here. But he is worrying on how to remove the infant from this room and head to the doorway portal without alarming the witch. At that moment, he had an idea. He knows that the witch got what she wanted and that he completed the deal, which was bringing the baby to her. There's no need for her to have revenge on him. As it was, he was essentially unharmed and woke up off the cold damp floor. His plan is to immediately place the wooden sunflower necklace on the wall where he found it, so the witch does not expect anything. Then slowly walk back to where he woke up, go through his rucksack, and retrieve his sleeping poisons. He slowly removes the necklace and returns it to its previous hanging location. He walks back slowly to where he woke up. He sees his rucksack lying on the floor next to his sword, which is enchanted with the spirit of a mage. He goes through his rucksack, removes the 4 remaining sleeping poisons, and places them in one of his pockets. He walks back not so carefully to the room where the witch and the baby are located, ensuring that he does not look like he's going to do anything suspicious. "What are you making? It smells delicious." The witch gets slightly startled and looks at him as he sits on a chair at the small table. "It's a mashed stew. My grandmother used to make me this when I was an infant." She turns back toward the counter and continues prepping the stew, chopping meat and vegetables and grinding them in the mortar and pestle as she adds various herbs. He looks at the baby again and the necklace hanging on the wall. "Speaking of grandmothers, my grandmother would make the most delectable tea. I don't suppose you would have any marjoram, lavender, and passion flowers, would you? Ah, a calming mixture. Perfect combination. Of course I have them. What witch wouldn't? I'm assuming you want me to make you a cup of tea before your travels back home to Outskirt." Now that he knows she seems willing to make him a cup of tea, he is hoping that she makes enough so both of them can sit to drink tea together. He knows that the sleeping poisons are a bit bitter, and the combination he gave her is not too bitter, and he is worried that she will taste the slight bitterness of the sleeping poisons. The journey back home is going to be long and difficult, especially with the current rainstorm that was present before I walked into the portal. "Can you add dandelion and chamomile as well into the brew? I know they are a bit bitter, but they help my aching bones." The witch obliges, opens 2 glass jars, removes the ingredients, and adds them to the brewing tea. He is pleased that his plan thus far is working, but his anxiety is increasing. He is worried that the witch won't accept his invitation to sit down with him to drink some tea, let alone how he is going to put the sleeping poisons into only the witch's cup. Hackleswell knows that his experience with bluffing and persuasion are his weakest skills. But he knows that anyone dealing with the dark arts is always interested in myths and legends. That is one of the ways that these practitioners gain knowledge. Have you ever heard of the bone weaver's loom? The witch slowly turns her head towards him and is visually intrigued. Oh, how lovely to hear a myth and legend from the legendary scholar Hackleswell. While the witch was pouring tea, he continued. The bone weaver's loom is a mythical loom crafted from a dragon bone. It is said to weave tapestries that alter reality, but each thread requires a sacrifice of life or time. The witch sits down at the table across from Hackleswell. She appears to be intrigued by his vast knowledge. Hackleswell, you would make a powerful sorcerer and can help our cause in the realm of dark magic. The vast knowledge you possess alone would make you invincible. However, simply having vast knowledge is only half of the prerequisite of becoming a conduit in the darkness. At this moment, Hackleswell notices that his daughter's spirit appears behind the witch. She has a saddened look on her face. He interprets the sad look she has at the witch's request for him to join in the covenant of dark magic. His daughter then looks at the baby and then slowly disappears. I must admit that the lore of dark magic has always, shall I say, intrigued me. Once the witch heard him say this, she gave a big and evil grin. Her teeth appeared to be rotted. He has to find a way to pour sleeping poisons into her cup of tea. Hackleswell notices that his daughter's spirit reappears. She then flies swiftly toward and through the wall where the witch's alchemy table and cupboards are located. The witch stands up and looks at her supplies, which have fallen on the floor. What was that? He takes advantage of this opportunity and quickly pours a sleeping poison into the witch's cup full of tea. The witch places the items that fell back to their original locations. She then sits back down at the table and grabs her teacup, now full of poison. Hackleswell takes this opportunity by raising his cup gently and says, "To dark magic." The witch then lifts up her cup and nods, then slowly moves the cup toward her mouth and stops. "Oh, Hackleswell, I will not drink this celebratory tea with you if you do not craft a pact with me right now." He became very worried at this moment. "A pact?" "Yes. You must accept a pact with me that you will join us in our dark magic brotherhood and witch covenant. Being the all-knowing scholar that you have a reputation for, you would know that more than anyone else. One must take a pact to drink with a witch." His anxiety now is even more heightened. He focuses on the baby crying in the corner. If he doesn't do this, he worries that there's no one to save the infant. But he knows that his daughter's spirit will be very saddened. He realizes that he has already lost his daughter in the realm of the living, but he can at least try and save this infant. "I will accept your pact." "Wonderful!" With a large evil grin on her face, she touches the middle of the table with her fingertip. At that moment, the table shimmered with symbols and what appeared to be dark blood pooling on the center of the table. The witch reaches into the pool of the dark blood and slowly pulls out a beating heart. While she recites something in a language that he doesn't understand, she raises the heart over his cup of tea and squeezes it. A drop of dark blood falls into his cup. He grabs his cup and the witch grabs hers. They both drink. While drinking, he can hear voices in his head, the sounds of children playing, and then hearing them scream. And then complete silence. His heart begins to race, and he is having trouble catching his breath. The witch, on the other hand, seems a bit confused. She moves her tongue around her mouth, due to something tasting odd about this tea. Her eyelids begin to droop. "You little snake! You put poison into my cup!" The witch yells with a slur in her voice. She tries to fight the effects of the poison, but she fails and drops onto the floor and passes out. Hackleswell slowly gets up. His stomach feels as though it has a sharp, long needle inside of it. He checks to see if the enchanted genie coin is still in his pocket, which it is. Then he grabs the wooden sunflower locket. Then he takes the infant out of the crib. Before running out the door, he checks to make sure he has the rest of the sleeping poisons in his pocket as well, which he does. He runs as best as he can down the corridor to grab his rucksack, which has an enchanted blanket and various items inside of it. He also grabs the enchanted sword that was laying next to the rucksack. He runs through the portal and returns to the dungeon lair under the lake. With the baby crying even louder, he runs above ground and is now facing the boat. As he places everything, including the infant, inside of the boat, he shuts his eyes as his stomach causes him immense pain.
"You will not get far, Hackleswell. You belong to us now."
He then opens his eyes and sees the world in a light hue of red. He could see evil spirits all around him and in the distance. As he hears the baby crying, he snaps out of it and gets into the boat. He picks up the oar, pushes the boat into the lake, and paddles to the river. He also quickly wraps the baby with the blanket that is enchanted with a calming spell. The baby now is much calmer and has stopped crying. The boat is now gently floating down the river in the direction where Hackleswell began his journey. Hackleswell is holding his stomach, which is in pain. The visuals around him are getting worse. The red hue is getting deeper. He then hears multiple voices in his head.
"Drown, kill, drown it. Do what we say, now!"
He slowly looks at the infant, trying to block out the evil voices in his head. As Hackleswell slowly leans towards the infant, his daughter's spirit appears before him, blocking his view of the baby. "Don't do it. Fight it, Papa." "I can't, sweetheart. I am too old and tired."
"Do it. Do it now, old and tired mallard."
He leans down further and picks up the infant, still wrapped in the enchanted blanket. Instead of the baby crying, it now sounds joyful. While holding the baby, he looks at the river.
"Drown. Drown it. Now!"
The pain in his stomach is growing more intensely. "Please, Papa. Don't do it. Please stop. Papa, stop!" Hackleswell shakes his head and sees a smiling, joyful baby in his arms. His arms are stretched over the boat, out on top of the river. "What am I doing?" He sees his daughter's spirit crying as she yells for him to stop.
"You are the reason your daughter died."
"No, it was an accident."
"You are the reason that no one loves you in this world, Hackleswell."
"No, please. Papa!"
"The baby must join your daughter. It is the only way."
He snaps out of it momentarily, but is fearful of what he will do to this child. "I will not harm this child." He places the infant down into the boat. He then grabs his enchanted sword. His daughter looks worried. He summons the mage spirit inside of the sword. The spirit is now in the boat. He takes out the enchanted genie coin and rubs it, summoning the genie. He looks at both of them and says, "Please keep this infant safe. Protect her." The mage spirit nods in agreement, and the genie replies, "I will no longer do as you command, but I will stay vigilant for this infant. Thank you." The genie sits next to the infant. He then takes off the wooden sunflower necklace and places it next to the baby. Hackleswell then looks at his daughter's spirit and tells her with great sorrow on his face, "I love you and will always love you, sweetheart. But what I must do now is the only way you all can be safe." Hackleswell slowly gets out of the boat and into the deep river. His daughter's spirit looks confused and worried as she floats down in the boat down the river farther and farther away. The evil voices in his head are getting stronger.
You pestilent loser! You are not strong enough to defeat us!
Hackleswell ensures that the boat is out of sight, knowing that they are on their way to Olgrit's farmhouse. The red hue in his vision is so intense that he can barely see the world around him. I love you, and I'm sorry.
You will do what we tell you, Hackleswell. You will complete your duty to your pact.
He knew that the evil voices and thoughts in his mind would only grow stronger. He then reaches into his pocket and takes out the 3 remaining sleeping poison vials. He opens one of them and ingests it.
You idiot! You can't get away from us!
He then opens the second one and ingests it as well.
No! You are nothing without us!
His stomach is in the most pain he has ever experienced in his life.
You will always be part of our covenant, old mallard.
At this moment, he can only see red. He sheds one single teardrop that falls into the river. He then opens the last sleeping poison and quickly ingests it. Then red turned into black.